One of the stories you first told me when we started to work together about how you accidentally ran a marathon twice.
You know, I think medical marketing is there's a higher standard than, you know, a lot of forms of marketing.
He's not communicating in a way that overstates the capability or only represents a small percentage of people who might have that much of a benefit.
Right. But you also love bringing the doctor and their team in, that you value that perspective.
Hey everybody, and welcome to Free Range Vision. I'm Matt Jensen alongside Dr. Vance Thompson. And for nearly 2 decades, we've been pioneering in practice, business, and team leadership. We'll cover everything from the pivotal lessons we've learned to the formidable challenges we've overcome and sometimes lost to, providing you with the essential tools to steer your journey and empower your team as you venture together. So whether you're at the helm of a practice or simply striving to cultivate a stronger culture, well, you found your flock. Let's venture off the beaten path together. Welcome to Free Range Vision.
Vance, today on our podcast, we're going to be talking about marketing and community engagement. But before we start, I want you to share a story because it's legend. And it's one of the stories you first told me when we started to work together about how you accidentally ran a marathon twice.
Wow.
Can you share those stories? Because, I mean, it was kind of community engagement.
So these stories starts out kind of sad because we, had one of my cousins had lost his son to leukemia, and so we were doing the team in training marathon in San Diego, and I use the term "we" loosely because it was my wife and my cousin and my sister, 3 ladies, who were going to walk the rock and roll marathon in San Diego to support and raise money for our cousin's son. And so the 3 husbands went out, for moral support. And so we're out there the night before helping them carbo load at the spaghetti feed. And my cousin, it turns out, had to not do the race. The team doctor said that her shin splints were so bad that she probably shouldn't even walk this marathon. And so my cousin said, Vance, since I can't do this, I mean, you run, do you want to just walk this, with, Jana and Misty? And so I said, sure. So all of a sudden I became Patty, because I get her packet and put her thing, little, counter on my shoe and number. And the next day, there's 25,000 people that are doing this, and the runners towards the front and the walkers towards the back.
Bands at every mile. This is early rock and roll marathons, right?
Yeah. And I'm an excitable guy. I mean, there's music there. I mean, I had to go to the restroom. Okay. So true confessions. And so my wife and my wife and my sister said, well, we'll just keep walking right on this line. And while you, go to do that, and then you just run up to us. And I said, okay. So I, they keep on walking. And when I'm done, I start to, run, and I'm running and I'm running and I'm looking, I'm running because I knew they'd be right on the line. And I get 5 miles out and I'm like, okay, there's no way that, they're still ahead of me. And I found out later that they had veered off for some treats, because there was some table with treats. And I, like Forrest Gump, went right on by. But I mean, I was looking. And so I thought, do I turn around and turn this into a 30-mile ordeal, or do I keep going? And I thought, I'm just going to keep going. I'll see how far I can run, and then I'll walk the rest.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm, going at my, slow pace. I always say I'm the guy that puts potholes in Sioux Falls. I'm not a very light on my feet person. And, but my cousin's husband and my sister's husband decide they're going to follow me. So every few miles, they're following me, and I become the movie within the movie to them. And I remember, getting out to 15 miles, and I could hear him from the side. He's still running. And I'm just plodding along. And I remember someone running by me with a T-shirt. You sure you want this whole story?
Yeah, the whole story. Yeah.
And, on the back of the T-shirt was, because you start thinking about all these things in life when you're doing something like that. And it was the scripture from Hebrews 13 saying, "Run with endurance the race that has been set before you." And I just start bawling. I mean, I'm like, because you're emotional, like, how am I still run? I mean, I maybe run, 3 miles a day then. And I'm like, how am I still running? And I get out to 19 miles. And this is now I learned why you train. So I hit an incline and I start to walk. And just by changing my pace, my legs were so sore walking that I literally had to keep running at the same pace I was going. And I finished that race. And it was 5 hours and 20 minutes. So obviously it wasn't fast, but I finished it. And I went into, the most, I hurt my muscles. And that next week was not pretty. And, but I didn't know I was running a marathon until I was running a marathon.
Right. Yeah. Janet tells a story about how for about a week you had to go up curbs backwards.
Yeah. No, it was, I mean, it was
you
really tough.
Not fast enough to qualify for Boston, but you did qualify for Boss.
That's right.
Well, there's a lot of fun stories like that in your background, because you are, you find yourself in strange predicaments. You're like the Forrest Gump of ophthalmology, in all of the places that were important, and you found yourself there. Vance, today we're going to be talking about marketing and the importance of marketing in ophthalmology in general, but also especially in the anterior segment world where you have, done your entire career. One of the things I heard you say early on, and I wasn't even working for you yet, I was still at a marketing firm and was just helping, design your communications, is that marketing is the beginning of informed consent. Say more about that.
Well, I think medical marketing is, there's a higher standard than, a lot of forms of marketing. I have a ton of respect for any marketing, but it's delicate when you decide you want to do medical marketing or surgical marketing. And so, if patients, it's all about expectations. That's what patient education is all about. We want to make sure they understand it'll do this and this, but it won't do that. And because we don't want to disappoint them. And that's where marketing, if you make a procedure sound better than it is, can, be the beginning of a journey that is not in the patient's best interest. And so I've always liked marketing on, the technology and doing your research and wanting, excellence, or just not doing it, but not having people feel like all procedures are equal. For instance, I've never been a price-driven doctor. And what I mean by that is I've never wanted to attract someone with a low price but not be able to afford quality technology. I've wanted to have the best of the best technology for safety and accuracy. Because what we do in medicine isn't perfect. What we want to do is minimize risk and maximize accuracy. And you do that through technology. So you need to, charge a certain amount to be able to deliver that technology. Well, if a patient is just reducing this to a price decision that nobody has taken the time to have them understand that these are the things that you want to learn, and then compare and then see what the price is. That's what you want to do. And so marketing, what are the things that you want to be educating yourself about is really important to me. And then, of course, I'm very fine with life benefits because there are some great life benefits with being able to do a lot, without glasses. But I just never want to say something in marketing that seems like it does more than it does. For instance, one of my pet peeves is throw away your glasses. Even if you're born with perfect vision, you don't get to throw away your glasses. At some point in time, glasses are a part of everybody's life, but it is a beautiful thing to not be dependent on them. And so reduced dependency is something that, I have a lot of respect for. But again, there's a lot of things about medical marketing that are delicate.
Yeah, I think that's a really important part of the conversation is not communicating in a way that overstates the capability or only represents a small percentage of people who might have that much of a benefit.
Right.
And over the years, I remember as we transitioned from LASIK marketing to talking about advanced implants for cataract surgery, there was really two big unhappy patient types.
Right.
One was patients that we'd hear of from other centers whose marketing overpromised
Right.
what the technology can do, especially for that time that we were in cataract implant development. And the others are patients who didn't even hear that there was options.
Right.
So they'd go from somewhere in the Midwest down south. They'd see all their friends who maybe had an advanced implant and they're like, I just had this done, but I wasn't given an option.
Right.
And so we have to do, our due diligence to talk about what are the options, what are their capabilities, but also don't overstate what they can do.
Exactly.
There's benefits and risks.
Right.
And that all has to come out in those first communications.
It does, Matt. And I think to tell you the truth, I think it's been one of the top 10 things I've loved about my journey with you. And that is, you have just a really unique and beautiful perspective about marketing. But you also love bringing the doctor and their team in, that you value that perspective. And then together, there's an end result that respects the principles of marketing, but also medical marketing.
Well, it's so funny that you said top 10, because I can't help but think of one of the things you put in my hands, the very first seminar that I went to of yours. I remember I went to the hospital and in one of their ballrooms for education. I didn't work for you yet. I may not have even been on your account yet, but I went and listened and saw your slides, and you handed me the refractive surgery report card.
Yeah.
And I thought you were a LASIK surgeon. So I thought, what's refractive surgery? What's that even mean?
Right.
And that night you distinguished between that because, you do PRK and LASIK, and you didn't want to have people only, be disappointed if they didn't get LASIK.
Right.
And so this seminar, you dispelled all of the rumors and myths and the 10 things that you wish patients would know before they have surgery, no matter where they go.
Right.
Talk to me about the report card and what kinds of things were on it, and how did you want patients to use that?
Well, it's a checklist so that people understand what exactly goes into a quality LASIK procedure. What exactly goes into a quality advanced implant procedure? What sort of preoperative education, what sort of preoperative diagnostics and measurements are important for making a decision? What sort of surgical technology is going to be used in the procedure? And what sort of postoperative technologies are important for monitoring? And then you can take a list like that and you can do your research. For instance, if you are concerned about price and you want to maybe investigate a lower price option, you can ask questions and they can say, well, this is why we don't do that. We don't think it's necessary. This is why we think that is necessary. This is why we don't do this. And then at the end of that, you get to make an informed decision. Because when you see someone that's been hurt by something that didn't feel like they were fully educated, and they're now wondering if we can fix them. It just motivates you to get better and better at your education. I've always been someone who believed in a comprehensive approach to refractive and cataract surgery. And there's no surgeon that has a perfect track record. And so when we talk about risks, this is something that gets to be very delicate. You do your best at education, you do your best at technology. You can't control healing all the time, but you can minimize risk through proper education, advanced technology, and keeping your skills up. And that's what things like a report card does to help people do their research.
Well, and it really arms the patient, the consumer, with the right questions. And it is a pet peeve of mine when other places maybe prey upon the undereducated nature of our patient population.
Right.
So they might be cheaper by a few $100s, but the patient won't know until the day after their surgery that aftercare is not included.
Right.
Right. Or fine tunes, for that matter, not included.
Right.
All kinds of ways that you can cut costs, but maybe you compromise quality. And we just don't think that that's the right way to communicate. And those things maybe aren't quite as prevalent these days, but early on, there was a lot of ways that people found to cut quality in order to lower price.
Right. And I really appreciate you saying that you believe it's less prevalent now. I actually really believe that too. Not only are patients, doing their research, but I also feel like there's good data out there on how quality technology increases the success of these procedures, and doctors have embraced that also. And so I again appreciate you saying that.
You talk about something that isn't exactly a marketing message, but it does, I think, posture the way I believe the doctor's mindset should be going into patient communications. And it's this, rather than business folks like me who talk about like an adoption rate or a conversion rate in advanced cataract surgery, you've got a special thing you call that rate.
Well, I want to educate someone so much that they have my knowledge, that I've transferred to them as a physician and surgeon, combined with their knowledge of themselves. And so I like to call it, what surgery would this patient do if they knew what I know rate?
Right.
Just rolls off the tongue.
Yeah, perfect.
But I am thinking of that every time I go into a patient education, and because it is a lot of information, and there's nothing wrong, patient, with just canceling your surgery and going home and thinking about this lifelong decision that, hey, happens to be elective.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I know it's kind of a long phrase, but I want them to know as much as they can possibly know to participate in the decision.
Well, it is a long phrase, but it does posture how I think we should look at marketing.
Yeah.
Right. That it's not so much to get the surgery, it's to educate the patient to know what you know
right
about their options.
Right.
So it is the right sentiment. I want to talk just a little bit about now just the actual message itself.
Right.
So let's transition to the types of communications you've done over the years and what you feel like has been some of the more powerful things that you've done. Is it a certain medium? Is it a certain message that's resonated with you? What's been some of your successful marketing?
Well, I'll tell you, Matt, it's magical sitting here and talking with you. Okay. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that we're two humans that care about each other, that, can do this for hours.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's nothing more powerful than in-person, one-on-one.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So in everything I'm about ready to say, remember that. And so, but the fact of the matter is we, live in a busy world out there, and people, can't just always do one-on-one. And so there's all these different ways to, learn and to be educated that have been developed that are actually quite beautiful, because we want to meet the patient where they want to be met. And so, this idea of, at the beginning of my career, there wasn't an internet, I
Right.
mean, the first year of my practice was 1991, and so we developed brochures, and we worked hard on them. And it's one of the reasons, again, I love about working with a marketing person to combine that with, medical and surgical knowledge. And we worked hard on, the patient educational materials that were in the office. And we worked hard also on seminars where, we'd make slides and we'd then figure out how to market those slides. Maybe it was ad in the newspaper.
And when we say slides, we mean like a projector, a carousel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
We're not meaning PowerPoint.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. We would draw out the slides and then,
Turn it
hire
over
out
to an artist. Yeah.
hire out to have someone make them. But remember, in person, one-on-one, most powerful, second most powerful, one on a group.
Mm-hmm.
And those seminars were amazing to, I'd have patients say, I've been to 3 of your seminars over the past 7 years, and I always knew when I needed surgery, I was coming to you, and now I'm ready.
Right.
And sometimes it was,
So
a
powerful.
number of years later. And then the internet came to be, and absolutely beautiful what it did for the ability to do research, do patient education in your own home, and even have a virtual seminar.
Right.
And all of it just beautiful. So print media, TV, internet, but we drifted away from in-person seminars. We never got away from this because we're going to see our patients.
Yeah. The one-on-one.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But the seminars we drifted away from. And I remember saying to my partners, I really think we should look at seminars again. And we all agreed that we didn't know how impactful that would be. But my reasoning was people study to go to college online.
Mm-hmm.
People study to go to college in person. People do a hybrid. And people, there's just, in this busy world, there's different ways that people want to be fed information. And I respect them all. And so that was, my original thought of getting back to patient one-on-one seminars. And so we did it. And, the first one we did, it was like 88 people showed up.
You're saying you've recommitted to public seminars.
Yes.
In person.
Yes. And it was so fun to see my partners, because I work with amazing people, and to see them presenting at these seminars that we used to do a lot of, we drifted away, and then we came back to them, and to just see the excitement it brought to our staff and everybody involved. And so, I really believe in all ways of communicating. But this idea of remembering sometimes old is new is good also.
Yeah. Don't be afraid to change the channel to something.
Right.
To something, people, I think right now after COVID and after a lot of digitalization, a lot of things online now we know are created through AI or bots.
Right.
And having it in person is a whole new level of trust that we haven't enjoyed for the last few years.
Yes.
Can be really powerful. The other thing I want to just make sure that we stop and mention here, Vance, is that you keyed in on something about the patient who had been to a few seminars over 7 years.
Right.
And a lot of times practices want to know what should the cost per surgery be to promote a seminar, assuming that there's going to be a one-to-one, or as close to a one-to-one, like this patient went to a seminar and that was the thing that turned them over to having surgery over here. And what you just said is it might be several seminars.
Oh,
So
yeah.
rather than the cost of the lead, the cost per lead in a short time frame, it's almost like the lifetime value,
Right.
you know, because it's an annuity.
Yep.
And that patient, once they have surgery, they might be a candidate in a few years for a cataract surgery.
Right.
And maybe if they've got some OHT or mild to moderate glaucoma,
Yeah.
they might turn into,
No.
an interventional glaucoma patient.
No,
But
that's exactly
we
right.
just have to be in front of them,
Yes.
talking about their
Yes.
vision,
Yeah. You're
lifetime value.
You're so dead on right. Not only two things. Not only are the seminars powerful for that reason, and you're planting seeds because not everybody needs or is going to want surgery, but they are talking with their friends. And I went to that seminar, and for what you're talking about, I think you should go see those people.
Mm-hmm.
It's another way of building trust
And ambassadorship.
Exactly, but it's also, remember how I said medical marketing to me is so delicate?
Mm-hmm.
The most tasteful way to medical market is to market education. Let us teach you.
Yeah.
That's why, you helped develop the tagline, clear answers about clear vision.
Mm-hmm.
It's been timeless. And so even if you
It's
don't,
trademarked. It's trademarked, by the way.
even if you don't, have surgery with us, it's like going to the local college to get a credit hour course in how your visual system works.
You're going to understand whether you have surgery or not.
And there's also another thing that can't happen virtually.
That's right.
You can't taste our cookies.
That's true.
You just can't delete cookies virtually.
Yeah. That's so funny.
And so people love coming and, having a treat and getting to know us, and, we get to shake hands and educate and develop.
I don't know why
relationship.
I'm thinking like this, Vance, but because we're walking down memory lane, your first website, I remember thinking these buttons need to have a click. We need to hear a click, God, people aren't going to know it's a button. And now, now there's cookies on our website.
Right.
You have to accept all the way to, cookies in our welcome area, in our atrium, that are world renowned. That education is so important for people to feel empowered. But I also want, I think that I'm really on this kick lately of this lifetime value,
right?
Because patients tend to be loyal to the providers that did a quality surgery in the first place.
Right.
They'll continue to come around and send their loved ones, and especially if they have a great experience like they've had with you over the years.
Yeah. Thank you.
So really powerful. I want to talk about now, as we're just kind of rounding the corner on marketing. How do you include community events, community style things within the marketing discussion? How important is public support of events or missions or, things like that?
Well, there's a range of help and importance. The most important is, this idea of helping those who can't help themselves.
Mm-hmm.
We've been blessed by our community, blessed by our profession, and it is important to give back. And that's why, sometimes we need to do free surgery, or we need to go somewhere and take care of people who, can't travel to us. Or, be a part of foundations, like the ASCRS Foundation that, helps people who can't pay for cataract surgery find a surgeon.
Right. Operations site.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And so, that sort of community help and support, I think, is our responsibility, not only as a physician and surgeon, but as a person. We all can help there.
You and your partners have done a good job of trying to really operationalize things like operations site. And for those of you listening, this is a really important way to endear yourself to the community and to local primary eye care providers, optometry, and also your team.
Right.
We used to try to figure out if patients are in need, and there's no real way for us to measure that. We're not going to ask for people's taxes, and but we believe that everybody should have access to great eye care, great
Right.
outcomes in their cataract surgery. Well, what this does is it basically uses a tool online through the website operations site, which is at the ASCRS Foundation website. And there's an online form that patients can fill out, and they've got a formula that they use to demonstrate financial need, and it takes all of that processing out of your hands at the practice. So they either qualify or they don't, and then Operations Site will help with part of the funding to have that surgery done. So there's really no reason to not have vision restoring surgery done
Right.
in this country with people who need cataract surgery.
And it's a great way to start the process, like you said, Matt, because sometimes there can be a lot of need out there.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it can get overwhelming. Sometimes it can be confusing where to start for both the doctor and the patient. So to have, an entity like Operations Site to point doctors and patients to and make a love connection,
Right.
and help someone with such an important surgery is so helpful.
Well, and you'll find that the OD community is very supportive of it. It gets your team really fired up, so
Yep.
it becomes a retention and pride thing. And then it's also worth mentioning, on your website or in social media when things like this are happening, so it becomes a marketing communications exercise as well. It's
Right.
good all around.
Right.
But it's just hard to, when we talk about media and messaging and creating, advertisements, it's hard not to want to couple it with the most sight-saving category, of vision correction that there is, which is those in need who can't afford it. So we should be talking about all of that.
Right.
Vance, I thought it'd be helpful if I share with you a couple of the messages that I found to be just really memorable.
Right.
And we'll put these in the show notes. But I remember when you did surgery on a friend of ours who had no hearing, was born deaf, and so all of her communication was dependent on sign language and sight. And she came to you for vision correction surgery, and we had to sit down and creatively figure out, how do we tell that story in a way that people will understand.
Right.
And I remember that being a really powerful message that got the community talking about, her entire, way to communicate in life is rooted in her visual system. A lot riding on that.
A lot riding.
And then what I think is the best communication we've ever had, which was accidental. We thought we were just doing something fun with our team. We made a fun little music video one afternoon
Right.
after a retreat, and it really took off like wildfire. And I'm ashamed to say it's probably the best communication I've ever created, and I didn't even mean to.
Right.
I say we,
Yes.
because we had our marketing team there. All the team members of the organization came
Right.
together to create this one take wonder
Yeah.
tour of our new facility, and it really it helped with the team culture.
Yeah.
So it was so much fun. But it also, you got a ton of views online, and you created a lot of applications of people who wanted to work with us.
Amazing.
It's crazy.
And I think the song was The Best Day of My Life.
That's right.
And it was super exciting to do. If I'd have known that it was going to get viewed that much, we'd have actually worked on it.
I know.
But I think because it was just happened so organically.
Yeah, authentic, right?
It was so authentic. I'll never forget this patient who traveled a long ways to have laser vision correction by me. And I said to her, "Hey, how'd you hear about us?" And I was waiting to hear her say, "I know you were involved in the research and development of LASIK or this or that." And she said, "I saw that video online and I thought this has to be an amazing place."
It's so funny.
And people, and I do think it's important for teams to have fun.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's nice for patients to see that, clinics and their teams are real.
Yeah.
And that was really fun. But I want to tell you that that's not my favorite story.
Okay.
Okay. It's right up there.
Yeah.
And I want to tell you my favorite story because it was also your idea. And that was, when you had made the medallions, the gift of sight, And these had thud factor.
Mm.
They were, made by a jeweler, and we gave them to our team, and they were able to gift someone in their life with the gift of vision surgery. Some people it was LASIK, some people it was phakic IOL, some people it was lens replacement, and they would video it. I'll never forget a guy who couldn't do anything. He was in a wheelchair and he was paralyzed and couldn't afford laser vision correction. But when his mother went to work, he couldn't do his glasses. I mean, he was and the video of our staff member giving this gift of sight, they're crying. Those of us watching are crying, and we did his surgery. But as surgeons, we oftentimes get the honor of giving the gift of sight. But when a staff member gets the honor of giving the gift of sight, that was one of the most powerful things that I ever experienced, Matt.
Well, Bud, I'm glad you mentioned that. It's easy to forget some of these things, and because it was a team thing, it was hard to consider it marketing. Right? We just don't think like that all the time.
Right.
But a credit to you is that whenever we would have a fun idea like that, you and your partners were just like, let's do it.
Yes.
Let's do it. And so we went and we did that for our holiday party, our Christmas party.
Yeah.
We inset it in a satin, inset in a box specially made for it. And everybody got a numbered medallion, laser cut.
Yeah.
It said something about on the back, please receive this gift of sight. The only thing we need from you is to enjoy your vision as much as we do.
Right.
Never take it for granted. And I remember that night, our concern going into it was that, our team members who are younger would give it to a girlfriend or boyfriend, the next Monday, and that would become their Christmas gift.
Yep.
But at our very next huddle, one of our team members stood up in tears. She was in tears on the holiday party night as well. She was in tears because she had been working this, I call it a cold case. And she was working with a gentleman from 10 Strike, Minnesota, way up north. And he had burns all over his body and had never tolerated contact lenses, and his glasses, his ears were too sensitive from burns to wear the glasses. Yeah. And she had been working with his insurance provider to see if they could get LASIK covered by the insurance, which, almost never happens, but there are rare exceptions when an insurance might cover it, but it's very, very rare. And they had said no. And so during our holiday party, she just knew immediately who this was going to. And I kind of get choked up thinking about it. And the very next huddle, that was one of the rules, is you give it to somebody, but you have to stand up in front of everybody and say who you gave it to and why.
Yep. She
stood up and proudly, and she told us a story about this guy. And there was no chance of anybody giving it to somebody willy-nilly after that.
Right.
I just remember thinking, what are we doing here? I mean, it's an eye surgery. I mean, it's a clinic and surgery center, but we were touching people in a much deeper way.
So deep.
I mean, the surgery was good for that gentleman.
Right.
But
touched all of us.
Her experience, the way she touched us and challenged the team. And it turns out, when you think about her, and I know you know who she is, but turns out, and she's still there.
Yep.
I mean, she's a great employee. You kind of want to be in the office next to her. She takes care of people.
Yep.
And I think that the take-home message there is free yourself to be creative about how you feature your offering to help others. Don't be afraid to feature your team.
Right.
Show them off a little bit.
Right.
They won't do you wrong.
Right. And don't think about what it's going to cost.
Right.
Because it is amazing what it does for, your joy and your satisfaction, and giving your team purpose, and the glue that it does for a team, and then touching these people's lives that we to this day still hear from.
Mm-hmm.
And it is, pardon the cliche, but a gift that keeps on giving.
Yeah. And we haven't said it yet on this session, but we'll get to it. But advertising is just one form of marketing. And in your career, it's the experience that's the marketing.
Yes.
Right. And that stands test of time much longer than the airwaves might hold it.
Right.
Thanks for a great discussion.
Yeah. Thank you.
We
Mark.
went deep on talking about something like advertising, Vance. It's a
But
pleasure doing
I have
this.
to tell you, buddy, you're so good at it because you let your beautiful heart and mind influence it. And I feel like, that marketing being the beginning of informed consent, it's also, it's kind of like brain surgery, heart surgery, and it's going deep. And I would tell all the marketing and advertising people out there, just like I would tell the tire guy, you're influencing, individuals and families and people's lives in a beautiful way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well said, Vance. Thanks for a great session.
Yeah, you betcha. Thank you.